assalamu alaikum, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to World This Morning. You are tuned into PTB World. Ladies and gentlemen, we definitely go out in 40 different countries, so whichever part of the world you are in, we hope and pray that you're doing wonderfully well and that you're looking after all your loved ones and that you're focused on achieving whatever you want in life. With me, ladies and gentlemen, after a fabulous weekend over here in Islamabad, since it's monsoon, it's raining, and Islamabad, one of the most beautiful capitals over here on this planet, I think has given us some splendid memories just over the weekend. I think somebody went away, had a good weekend, and she's none other than Miss Shiza Hashmi. Hello, Shiza. How are you? How was your weekend?
My weekend was great. Thank you so much for asking. Before that, how are you?
Well, I think I'm feeling fine, and thankfully, alhamdulillah, after a while, I had a busy weekend as well.
Yeah, you were working?
Yeah, because every now and then my father keeps on telling me that, son, you need to do something else other than television. And I'm like, you know what, this is the only thing I know, and what do you want me to do?
Right.
So he was like, you need to explore some more good things which you might be interested in and whatnot. So my weekend was actually spent over finding something which was actually full of interest for me.
Okay.
And not just that, full of hard work too as well. So I was just kind of figuring it out. What do I need to do?
All
what
right, well, good luck with that. I really hope it works out for you, inshallah. But for everyone watching right now, like Shahzad mentioned, you're watching from more than 40 countries, in fact, in the world. So, well, I really hope your weekend was great. You were safe and healthy, yes. And one more thing. So, you know, over the weekend, I came across people who had, ever since the quarantine or the lockdown started, people are talking about being productive. Someone became an artist. Someone became, well, I want to say a cycler. Everyone was working something out, right? There were a lot of chefs coming up as well. So there were some people who were with the idea that being productive is, not everything. So there were definitely, I'll explain. Don't worry, I'll explain.
I need to.
Yeah,
I need
so
an
here's
explanation
the thing.
on this.
So a lot of people really felt lethargic throughout the lockdown as well. They were either, spending time in their bed or just watching movies or just eating what was at home, not doing anything substantial or not being productive at all.
That's true.
Sorry?
That's true.
That's true, yeah. And people were actually okay with it as well. They did not want to compete with people who were being productive. And all they wanted was for people to understand that it is okay to actually have a break in your mind as well.
Yeah.
Right? So what do you think about it? Do you think you really have to be productive all the time, especially in lockdown as well?
This is exactly the same thing which I even said to, while I was in self-isolation and while I actually got tested for COVID-19. So there were a lot of private channels whom I've been given interviews to as well. And this was the first thing I said. And this was the first question which everybody would ask.
Okay.
How are you using your time and whatnot? And I was like, I will have all the time in my life to do whatever, may it be book reading, may it be producing more music, may it be doing more shows. And then I was like, I think that it's a blessing in disguise because, this is the time when I do not want to do anything.
Yeah.
I just want to lie down, listen to some good music, to relax myself and just work out. And this is what I did pretty much. And now I think is the time
Sounds
to
fun.
contemplate on whatever I have gathered during that period as well. And I think that that's something which we are moving forward with as well.
Absolutely. But Shahzad, so sorry to
go
cut you
ahead.
over here. But since you are talking about the lockdown, I think we've had this conversation before, but let's have it with everyone out there as well. You said that you had this sort of epiphany about, people who have like extra patience with you.
Yeah.
There are times when you lose your temper. There are times when you don't feel like talking to someone or not, just being in the presence of people. But there are some people who love you so much that they would go beyond horizons to be nice to you or to be patient with you because they understand what you're going through. But in return, all you have to do is to be grateful with them, acknowledge that they're actually, gratitude, exactly. Acknowledge that they're actually putting in effort as well. Imagine one day they lose their patience. What are you going to do next?
Well, I think that this is something which is very similar and very relatable as well because you know how parents are, they look after you, since the day one when you were actually, when you came into this world, they've been around you and they've given you all of what you actually require to, probably be the person who you want to be.
Right.
So my mother obviously looked after me very well, and in every interview I kept on mentioning that if you really need to see Allah on earth, I think all you need to do is just take a good look at your parents. And I think that that's the kind of love you get, and this is what Allah says, that love you more than 70 times from your mother. So it was very relatable, and I kept on doing that. But as soon as my test came out negative, she was happy and whatnot. But then there was this one day because now my mother is actually very keen to clean the household and whatnot, and everything needs to be very hygienic and a little bit of OCD as well. I'm sorry that I'm saying this about my mother, but yeah, if she's listening to this, she knows that I'm speaking the truth. So what happens is that somewhere around during the day, it's hot and it's summers, she will actually come upstairs and she'll be like, you know what, you need to take the cars out of the porch because we need to wash it.
Okay.
And I was like, it's so hot, and my car's going to get hot, and probably, the leather's going to be in bubble shape and whatnot. Why do we have to do it? And then all of a sudden, hey, there's my mother. Oh, and she's angry, and she's like, you call yourself an obedient son? Well, you're not an obedient son. I was like, just because of one matter, just because I'm not taking the cars outside because it's hot and it will actually have an impact on my car, and my car won't look that nicer. She was like, you know what? I've had enough of conversation. I'm not talking to you. Okay, I'll manage it somehow. And then I was feeling guilty, and I was like, okay, you know what, I'll do it.
Yeah, but that the car thingy was not the reason. It was just one of the things that probably pushed her off the verge as well. But here's the thing.
What do you mean? This was the only thing. There's nothing else.
Yeah, so here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen. Be very grateful for the people around you, especially the ones who put in extra effort to keep up or put up with you as well. But Shahzad, today I feel like we need to talk about something so essential, yet so, I want to say, normal, or I want to say basic as well, that we tend to overlook it. We tend to, sort of neglect the idea that we need to sit down, discuss these matters, and learn more than discuss.
Exactly.
So what is it?
Thank you very much for sharing that as well. And ladies and gentlemen, just the previous week, we actually made sure that we're going to have somebody who had good grip over, kind of sharing what our constitutional rights were. And every now and then we do speak about, freedom of speech and freedom of expression and movement and whatnot. But I think that there's a lot more to this, and we wanted to dig in a little more as well, and we wanted to make sure at World This Morning, at PTV World, that we make people more aware about what their constitutional rights were. So today what we have done is that we've actually picked up a list.
Yeah.
And since it happens to be the first chapter in the Constitution when we speak about fundamental rights, so we are going to discuss those fundamental rights. And we're not going to say that whether, we can practice them in our country or not. Everybody knows how the situation is, and I think that's how it's going to be. But for instance, if I think that people will be more aware of what their rights are, I think they will start practicing it, and it will bring about a change, a very positive change as well. So to discuss what our fundamental rights are, ladies and gentlemen, we're very lucky that we've been joined by some very apt guests. Both of them, they actually happen to be advocates at Supreme Courts as well. And yes, let's see what do they have to say, and whether they have been practicing as students of law or probably practicing law. Have they practiced all of their fundamental rights or not? I think that this is the first question I'll be posing. Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, very quickly, we are very lucky that we've actually been joined by Mr. Barrister Afzal Hussain Sahab. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you.
Thank you very much for inviting me, for having me.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
We are glad that you have taken our time, that you're with us as well. And not just that, ladies and gentlemen, alongside Barrister Sahab, we're very lucky that we've actually been joined by another advocate, Supreme Court as well. He's none other than Mohib Habibullah Khan Sahab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Fine.
Thank you very much for joining us. It's wonderful to have you, and it's a splendid morning. It's a Monday morning. We want to let people know that, that these are your fundamental rights, and you have every right to practice it. Unfortunately, if they cannot, well, first of all, what we need to do is that we need to see whether they know that they have such extensive fundamental rights within the Constitution of Pakistan.
Yeah.
But the first thing which I'm going to ask you is, for all the fundamental rights mentioned in the first chapter, have you practiced them all?
You see, as far as I'm concerned, so far to this very day, my fundamental rights have not been violated.
Okay.
So I never felt need to invoke my fundamental rights through the courts of law.
Yeah.
Whenever someone's fundamental rights are violated, then the person has the right under the Constitution to enforce them through the superior courts of the country. First of all, I would like to explain that what is basically a constitution. A constitution is a social contract between the state and the citizens.
Yep.
So under Article 2A of the Constitution, which objective resolution has become the substantive part of the Constitution, the doctrine of good governance, that the government of the day and its institutions has to ensure that they basically ensure good governance. So this is the first responsibility of the government of the day, to ensure the enforcement of the fundamental rights.
Okay.
In case there is some violation of fundamental rights, then the person whose rights have been violated is under a moral obligation, and I would say a legal obligation, not in the strict sense, but it is his right, his or her right, to enforce it through the superior courts of the country. Article 199 of the Constitution basically empowers the high courts of the country to enforce fundamental rights, and then Article 184 of the Constitution empowers the Supreme Court of the country to enforce fundamental rights. You must have heard about the suo moto jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. and that's under Article 184(3), that the Supreme Court, if there is a question of which is related to public interest and is a matter of public importance, then the Supreme Court can take suo motu notice, or under the original jurisdiction, the Supreme Court can pass orders to all governments, provincial or the federal, or all agencies, the law enforcement authorities in the country. So as far I am concerned, to this very day, God has been very kind. I never felt the need to invoke my to go to the court and file a petition, because my fundamental rights have not been violated.
Yeah,
I have
that's
been
because
lucky
you're
when
privileged, alhamdulillah.
Yes,
but there's like a
undoubtedly.
major segment of the society that needs to
Undoubtedly.
learn from you. That's why
Yes,
you're here to
yes.
share the knowledge as well. Shahzad, I do realize you have a quick question. If you can do that, then I want to move on.
All right, so I'll move on to Muhammad Habibullah Khan sir as well. Sir, I think sir was very right and apt when he was actually saying that, this article, and it looks very worthy as well. That that the next person we are in conversation with is worthy of sharing the same information and knowledge with us, which is great. But now when we say that that every Pakistani has a right to go and file a petition in the higher courts, and I seriously, I never wanted to indulge into a conversation of such sort at such an early stage in our program, but I think since sir has mentioned it, I think we need to talk about it. So let's open the Pandora box. We have definitely seen that suo motu has been taken by the superior courts as well and whatnot. But not just that, what we've realized is that every time a suo motu was taken or a notice was published, it was because of the fact that was somebody who was famously known by people, not just any ordinary other Pakistani as well, because that's something which we haven't realized or kind of noticed in our lives as well. But not just that, when we talk about superior courts, it takes ages to even reach out to the superior courts as well. And if it is their responsibility to enforce our constitutional rights, do you think that they have fulfilled their responsibility, or they still have a chance to do so?
I think there is a need to revise our system according to our fundamental rights provided by the Constitution of Pakistan. For example, we have a police system there here in Pakistan of 2500 years back, which was framed by the British rules. So the power rests with the IO, investigation officer, who is just matriculation, who has less salary, less social status in our society, and have a great power. So what has been written by the investigation officer cannot be changed by the magistrate, or even the Supreme Court do not have a right to change this. So we need to revise. We have to make another body apart from the police, which is my suggestion. The Prosecution Authority of Pakistan. It's very necessary.
Right.
Necessary, and make the powers to the educated persons for investigation of the affairs of the which is rest with the police authorities. So we must separate the security system and the prosecution system. We must separate both the things.
Which is why, sir, I think that just because you've said it and you've mentioned it now, I know that for sure that my rights were violated, and I'm going to share an example with you too as well. So for once, when I was a university student, I was visiting my friend, and we were doing this group study thing, and we had a presentation next morning. So we chose to come back together, and that he's going to stay at my place, and then we'll go to the university together next morning. While we were on our way back, on 9th Avenue, right next to I-8, there's this police checkpoint. They stopped me, and I did stop, and then they were like, okay, we need to check your car. I was like, sure, go ahead, check my car. Opened up my boot, I had a snooker stake, I had a horse whip, I had a baseball bat, because I was the member of a Samba club, and I used to go there very often and do whatever sports activity I wanted to do. But that gentleman, that police officer, wanted that steel baseball bat for his son or for whoever he wanted. He was like, the bat stays here, you guys leave. And I was like, how can you take my bat? There's no reason that you can take my bat. This is my membership card, you can see it. But he took us to the police station. He actually filed an FIR where he said that we were robbing somewhere near in I-8, and that it was a hassle for all of us, for me and my friend, to actually get out of that situation. We were very worried because we were students. So my rights have been violated. What do you think anybody can do when their rights are violated?
Yeah, that's we need. We have to change our system. We have given the power with the less social person having less salary, less status there. We have given the great power there. So we have to change our system according to the fundamental rights provided by the Constitution of Pakistan.
All right.
This is
Right.
this is need today.
So you want to add something to it?
Yes.
Okay.
I would like to add one thing. You see, as far the courts are concerned, or even the law enforcement authorities are concerned, as we say that there is always room for improvement. Undoubtedly, there is need for improvement. There is need.
There's a hall for
Yes,
improvement. sir.
undoubtedly. I'll explain.
Yeah.
I would say that there is need to revamp the entire criminal justice system in this country, starting from the police reforms. Then first we need to have educated police officers.
Of course.
We need to make sure that they go through psychological testing as well, because somebody who has stopped you and he wanted bat for his son or for whatever purpose best known to him, I think he was a psychopath. This is my personal understanding of the matter, because just to get a bat when you refused because it was your right, and you were absolutely right, you showed your membership card of Islamabad Club, and then he made sure that he wanted to fix you for disobedience, I would say.
Yeah.
So he wanted to fix you, and he launched an FIR against you and leveled a very serious allegation of theft.
Right.
Exactly.
So it obviously it was a life-changing event, because unfortunately, because the system we have, if somebody levels an allegation against you, particularly the police officer, and FIR is registered against you, then the person who is accused, the salutary principle of criminal jurisprudence is innocent until proven guilty.
Right.
But unfortunately, because of the practical issues we face every day, the person who is accused, who is innocent until proven guilty, then he has to prove his innocence. Then
And that's the most difficult part.
that's the most difficult part. And that includes defamation, the social issues, the financial issues, and then the career issues as well.
Exactly.
Because there are so many places where you go, the first question they ask is whether a criminal case has been registered against you, what kind of criminal
Offense,
case, and what was the offense, and what was the outcome, particularly when you apply for visas or jobs abroad. And if you conceal it, it means that you are doing misrepresentation.
Exactly.
And when you explain it, obviously it has an adverse effect on your career path, or
Absolutely.
whatever. So my personal understanding of the matter is that it was very unfortunate what happened to you, and I don't know what is the outcome, and
Yeah.
what was the outcome. Must have happened a few years ago. I'm
Yeah.
sure by now you are acquitted.
Alhamdulillah,
and
everything's
acquitted.
fine. So,
Everything
so
is
towards
fine.
the end, I actually had to beg him, touch his feet, and you kind of ask for mercy that, come on, we are still students.
I'll tell
You
you one
did?
thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
I did. And from there onwards, I never kept a cricket bat even in my boot. And I was like, it's better to be
And
safe.
that's really unfortunate.
It
I mean,
needs to be
especially.
revamped. The policing, we need to invest more money in policing. We need to make sure that the police in federal capital or in the provincial capitals or anywhere for that matter, we need to make sure that they are educated police officers. When I'm saying officer, it includes the constables.
Exactly.
Because the Thana culture, unfortunately, we have in Pakistan is absolutely, we need to get rid of it.
Of course, of course. Now, here's the thing. When we talk about fundamental rights, Shahzad, there are, of course, so many questions. And I feel like this one particular show, or 40, 45 minutes, cannot do justice to it. But I'm going to take you back to one thing you said, and I want you to sort of highlight and explain that to us as well. So when we talk about a constitution, it should be, we think it should be timeless in terms of, now when we talk about ours, there are no amendments whatsoever. Is ours timeless? And you said that there are so many changes, or you want to say additions, that you feel like there should be in our constitution. What are them? And also, when we talk about Riyasat-e-Madina, now this is some conversation we had in detail before the show, so we're just going to try to cover it in a gist as well. When we talk about, launching a welfare state in Pakistan, or making it one, or is at least aspiring to make it one, are we on the way even, or how long are we going to be there then?
Exactly.
Yes, this is my suggestion. That we have ensured the Islamic way of life, Islamic social justice system, according to the Article 2A of the Constitution of Pakistan. But there is a need that every sphere of life, we seek fundamental principles given by the Islam. We must include in the chapter of the fundamental rights there.
Okay.
So the court seeks guidance from there. The executive, they must seek guidance from that fundamental principles. So we must run our system according to that fundamental principles given by the Islam.
Exactly.
So there is a need to work there. For example, in economic system, in taxation, there is a sales tax
Yep.
Okay.
applicable to all the peoples of the Pakistan. apart from that, you are getting 2 rupees per month or 2 million rupees per month. But you have to pay whenever you consume one thing. You have to pay the
Every
taxes
time.
every
Yes.
time. While the Islam, for the purpose of taxation, he imposes the burden on the wealthy persons, on the
Right.
persons who are able to bear their all needs of the life, expenses of the life. So the fundamental principles given by the Islam are the different. So
Okay.
if there is in constitution, we can challenge all the taxation system.
Yep.
So since there is no fundamental principles prevailing in constitution of Pakistan, so we cannot challenge it.
So no
there
fundamental
is a need.
principles,
There is a need of improvement. There is need that we must work on the Islam fundamental principles given by the Islam for every sphere of the life, and we
Okay.
must include in Constitution of Pakistan.
Exactly.
Okay, I think that makes
there
perfect
is a need.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense as well. I mean, he's talking about, of course, there is a taxation is in the constitution, but what sort of how it should be different should definitely be, revised as well. But now coming again back to fundamental rights, when we talk about national identity, to have one, I'm sorry to give you this example, but let's say, sir, if you were stripped of your Pakistani identity, who are you? You're not a Pakistani. Who are you in the world? So when we talk about transgenders, this was hardly few years
Thank you
back.
for
They were
bringing it up
finally
now. Yeah.
they were finally having an ID card and even a passport. So what about their constitutional right to have a national identity?
It's a very good question, but with your permission, I would like to add something.
Sure.
What my learned friend has said.
Yeah.
I think as far the Constitution is concerned, Constitution is Islamic in nature, there is no doubt about it, and there are certain Islamic provisions in the Constitution. So people, the audience must know that the Constitution is Islamic in nature. There are Islamic provisions in the Constitution.
Of
It is a
course.
matter of opinion, basically, that there is need to improve basically what implementation. Article 3 of the Constitution clearly states that it is the duty of the state to eliminate all forms of exploitation. You see, all forms of exploitation. So it's, and then to work for the fulfillment of the fundamental principle. So having said that, there are certain provisions, Islamic provisions, right to profess and right to have religious institutions and everything. As for theory is concerned, as for the theory is concerned, the articles of the Constitution are concerned, it is absolutely everything. It is an excellent piece of legislation, I would say. The question is of implementation, basically. Now moving back to your question, I think it was the apex code of the country, as far I remember, I
Apex
recall,
code, yes.
it was the apex code of the country. The Supreme Court of Pakistan passed an appropriate order for transgenders, and they got their identity cards. My personal viewpoint is that there is need of special legislation to empower transgenders, as there are certain special legislations to empower women, like Harassment at Workplace Act 2010. I think it is, though it is not gender specific,
Okay.
but there is no doubt about it that this particular act empowers women.
Okay.
So I think that there is need to the government of the day and the opposition, because it is a national matter basically, and there should be no politics on national officials.
course.
So I think that, and it's also a matter of human rights, basically, the fundamental rights of citizens, and because unfortunately that they were born with a disadvantage, I would say, unfortunately, because the situation.
Or we took it as a disadvantage.
Yes, we took it.
Yeah.
I would absolutely, thank you. I stand corrected. We take it as a disadvantage, or it is the way of the world, I would say.
Yeah.
Anyway, there is need of special legislation to empower them, that there is need of special quota in the workforce, and there is need that the Baitul Mal we have and the Benazir Income Support Program we have. There are two social welfare programs in Pakistan. I think there is need of special quota for transgenders, that they should be, their medical facilities, they should be paid for medical facilities, there should be some financial assistance as well. So it's a special class basically, and there is need of special classification, and they should be empowered through appropriate legislation and comprehensive legislation, which should include their education rights as well.
Which still needs
Oh
to be
yeah,
done.
yeah,
Yes, needs
absolutely.
to be
But I
done,
love the fact
undoubtedly.
that now
It's a long walk to freedom, I would
Yeah.
say. It's a long walk.
Yeah, but I want to add to this. I love the fact that Allama Iqbal Open University is now actually offering free education
Yes.
up till PhD to all
Yes,
transgenders. So, well, I mean, we're taking some foots forward as well. You want to say something?
Yes, I wanted to add, and not just that, there's a school in Lahore as well who are
Oh, yeah.
actually disseminating free education to transgenders. Not just that, now we actually have a laser clinic which is dedicated towards transgenders only as well. So I think we are moving in the right direction. But now, sir, since we are talking and we are talking about our very prestigious institutions like police, for example, where we are saying that we really need to revamp the system and come up with some more, sound kind of strategies or probably laws in place as well, where a person cannot forge an FIR onto somebody, which is correct. Now I'm going to come back to a system where you play a very important role and you play a very important role. And I think it's the most prestigious system within our country, and it's the justice system. Now, one of the fundamental rights is the right to fair trial. Sorry, I miss out on that. And I'm not going to ask anything. I want you to speak about it. I've seen people who've murdered people. They're still out in the free, in the open, roaming, having a good life. I've seen people that their land was grabbed. And on the other hand, on the contrary, the person who was the affectee is actually behind the bars. So, how do you think that we can actually have a fair trial in a country where we have seen people getting away with murder, and we have seen people that they were the ones who were the affectees and are behind the bars? Let's speak about
see
it.
Article 10 of the Constitution you are talking about, right to fair trial. Right to fair trial is very important, and Article 4.
First of all, what you need to tell me is, do we get a fair trial? Let's
absolutely,
be honest.
absolutely.
Okay.
I'll come to that. Article 4 of the Constitution talks about the due process of law. And recently, Article 10A of the Constitution was introduced, which specifically stipulates the right to fair trial. As far my personal experience is concerned, I would say that it's not that the courts or the criminal justice system is not providing fair trial to the citizens, but there is undoubtedly need to improve the system, to revamp the entire criminal justice system. Because let me give you an example from the cybercrime. For cybercrime, you need experts investigating officers. I am certain that there are hardly few IOs working in Islamabad and Rawalpindi region. So, starting from the prosecution viewpoint, so first we need to make sure that the prosecution, which is FIA, Federal Investigating Agency, so we need to have specialized courses for them first, and to make sure that best out of the best, they are appointed as investigating officers and in reasonable number. Number one. Number two, that the judges they must go through trainings. It's not that they are not going through trainings; they are going through certain trainings. Then the lawyers, the expert lawyers, and the criminal justice system is based on CPC, which is the Code of Criminal Procedure, and then the PPC, Pakistan Penal Code, basically. And then there are specialized legislations like PTA, Pakistan Telecommunication Act, which Section 31 speaks about the masking and the certain offences and their punishments. So what is required is that a joint effort, a comprehensive legislation, then training, and before all this, a political will is required and finance is required to revamp the entire criminal justice system. And I think this is the need of the hour, and it's been 72 years. And I believe, yes, we need to do this. Absolutely, it should be top priority for the top-notch judiciary and the government of the day, and all of us, people who are the civil society, I would say.
And we are trying our level best.
We are trying our level best. Very important question.
Yeah, but moving on, of course, Shahzad, I think we already spoke about the fact that there are rights bestowed upon us by the Constitution, but to realize them or to implement them is the main issue we're here. But sir, I want you to talk to us or explain to us the Article 25 when we talk about equality of our citizens, especially in light of realizing SDGs in terms of equality in receiving education, regardless of the gender, and equality in workplace, regardless of gender, in terms of employment.
Bonded labor and all of those things, we still cannot get rid of it.
Yeah.
True.
First, I have to explain my earlier view
Sure.
about what have discussed.
This is what I like the most about advocates. Whatever they have in their mind, they are going to speak about it. And I think that this is the right.
I think this is the most important part of the discussion.
Okay.
So, we have a chapter of fundamental rights protected by the Article 8 of the Constitution of Pakistan. We can challenge law, we can challenge the action of every executive through Article 199 of the Constitution of Pakistan.
Okay.
In Supreme Court through Article 184 or 183 of the Constitution of Pakistan. So whenever we go to the court always asks, is there any violation of the fundamental rights? So Article 8 provided the protection. Whatever is inconsistent with the fundamental rights provided in the chapter of the fundamental rights, you can challenge it, but you cannot challenge Article 3 if anything is in term of exploitation. Article 3, Article 2A, Article 8 of the Constitution of Pakistan has not provided the protection of Article 3, Article 2A. These articles are just for guidance for the parliaments, for the judiciary, just for guidance. But they have not an enforceable value.
All right.
So enforceable value starts from the Article 8, not Article 3. So that's designed by our Constitution of Pakistan. We are agreed, but I need, according to Article 3, there must we explore the principles. According to 2A, we must explore the principles of the Islam and must include in Chapter 2, fundamental rights, so that they must have an enforceable value before the court of law.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Before
That's a
our
valid
system.
point.
That's a valid point.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
And now moving on to the next one.
Equality for citizens.
Yes. According to Article 25, they have provided that for the purpose of the creed, the gender, we must not discriminate, but there is a need to make our system according to Article 25.
Yeah, of course.
We have provided in Article 36 and Article 37 that there must be a speedy justice system.
Absolutely.
And there must not be a more cost of our judicial system, but that is not enforceable because the Article 8 has not provided the protection for Article 36 and 37.
All right.
That's the policy of the government matters, whether they are providing or not. So we need to more elaborate or more include more things in Chapter 2 of the fundamental rights.
You know, today is the day when I actually wish that, I should have actually learned by heart all the articles, 25A and 36 and
You don't have to learn,
Article
just
8 as
read
well.
them,
But,
they will
but when we say that this article, ladies and gentlemen, it's your responsibility to go and read it in the Constitution, because we are actually over here sitting, making sure that you guys are more aware of your fundamental rights as well. But sir, thank you very much, since we are running short of time as well, and we have one more thing to do today. But very quickly, one last thing which I want to ask is, because we have seen a lot of my friends are actually advocates too, and we've seen that the courts were shut because of COVID-19, and it has had a major impact even on the justice system. And then there are a lot of cases which are pending as well. How do you think it has impacted your work?
Undoubtedly, it has an adverse impact on our work. But I would like to say that this is the sad reality of the world, that we have to handle it and we have to face it. I would only like to add one thing regarding the Article 3, that anything which will exploit a citizen or the rights of the citizen, it will automatically become a matter of fundamental rights. Article 3 is not enforceable, but all fundamental rights are enforceable, provided if they are exploited.
Exactly. And it's a longer debate, and we definitely want to do that, but probably we'll do it some other day as well. But thank you very much, gentlemen, for being with us and for making us aware. And there's so many other fundamental rights.
Thank you very much for having us.
Our
Thank you.
pleasure,
Thank you very much, sir.
absolutely.
We're glad. And there's a list, ladies and gentlemen. And the only purpose we are here sharing all of these fundamental rights with you is so that you know what your rights are, and that next time if somebody is violating your right, you can actually go to the court and take help. I think that this is something which we really need to put in practice as well.
Absolutely. But now of the ongoing pandemic as well, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of people have been sort of violated, of the right of their life as well, in terms of, how normal it was. It's not normal anymore. Like you said, sir, your work has been compromised as well. Everyone's has been. Yeah. So right after this very short break, we're going to be in conversation with someone, well, I want to say very famous. He's been ruling your hearts for quite some time, and we're going to ask him how his work was affected by COVID-19.
Exactly.
Stay tuned to find out who it is.
Yes.
Good morning. Welcome back to Well this morning with the very super energetic Shahzad Khan and Shiza Hashmi. And well, we're having a great time on a Monday morning, learning a lot with you guys as well. But right now, this is sort of a norm of our show. Now we talk about how lives are changed in the pandemic. So who do we have today, Shahzad?
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, today we actually have one of those people over here on the show today with us, whom I was very lucky to get a chance to work with. He's a superstar. He obviously lives and resides in the hearts of millions of people all across the globe. His claim to fame was Ishrat Baji on a private channel, and it kept on running for a longer period of time. I was lucky enough to do a drama serial where Wajahat Rauf was actually, and his wife was actually the producer.
Oh.
Wajahat was the director of the drama Shab-e Arzu Ka Alam. Not just that, ladies and gentlemen, we have seen him in a couple of films as well, which the films have done fabulously well on the box office. But not just that, now he's actually in the making of a producer himself, and he's producing a film, and he's busy on the edits. But we actually sent him a few questions. Let's see what he has to say, how COVID has had an impact on his life and all the artist community out there. Let's see what Mohib Mirza has to say to us.
Hello, thank you for having me on the show. I think COVID-19 has really, really badly impacted the actors community and entertainers and all the creative arts related people, and they are suffering, and there is no earning for the last 4 or 5 months, and they are not being able to pay their bills, and every day the flow of cash is becoming a big problem, has already become a big problem for them. And I think it's high time government must realize for the artist community, and must provide some sort of funds to Actors Association and Producers Association, so people could get some sort of support from the government to go through these difficult times. It's very unfortunate because actors and entertainers can't be on duty, and they just can't, because it's all about the human contact and interaction, and there are no productions as such happening right now. Just like many other businesses, this industry is also suffering badly. The question is, am I missing work? Of course, I'm missing work, because most of the times one has to stay home, because stay home, stay safe, because one has to think about the immediate family also, and about the parents. So I have to be very, very careful. So I'm just not I'm just homebound, and of course I'm missing work, because the problem is there is no work as such. One could just go for an interview or do a live session online or something, I don't know. But luckily, I'm editing my film, which I shot earlier before this pandemic situation, and every day I have a routine set with editors to take baby steps and keep editing and keep at it. Fingers crossed. Let's hope for the best for the Pakistani cinema also. And people are designing things, interacting a lot through video conferencing and all, and try to come up with all sorts of digital solutions. That also keeps one busy. But of course, physically going to work, I'm missing that, and it's all about getting ready and go to work and perform your duty and come back. So that is missing, and we're trying to get used to the new normal. Okay, the question is what I have learned in this lockdown. I have learned to stay as positive as possible, and to pray, to meditate, how to be with my own self, to embrace silence sometimes, and to bring more positivity to one's environment. So this is what I have realized, that when you're in a, when you're in a regular cycle, you're in a regular routine, you just don't get time for your own self. So even though I have this routine of editing my film every day, when I am not, so I practice meditation and I practice, you know, interacting with the creator and, being with my own self. So this is what I've not really learned, but I've reconnected to my own self, which has given me a great hope, great positivity, and another kind of self-confidence. Okay, the question is family life. I think one of the best things that happened during these times is the realization of the value of your immediate family. And the same happened with me. I am very lucky to have my parents around, and I'm trying my best to keep them, safe and locked in the house. So we are interacting more, and since I'm free, I'm homebound also, so it gives me a great pleasure to be with them and to be around them more than normal, and it brings a great joy. I would ask anyone who is not close to their family to make sure that their family is safe, and their especially elderly parents are, in best of the health and in the best of frame of mind. So this is what I've realized, that at the end of the day, it's all about your, close-knit circle and your immediate family.
Yes, it has, COVID-19 has had an impact, and that, that there was a film that he was shooting. Fortunately for him, that, he was able to complete it, but unfortunately for Vajahadroof, who couldn't, and he actually had to stop the shoots as well. And that what he's learned is that, it is good to pray, and that it is good to be quiet sometimes as well. But we definitely want to wish you best of luck, Mohib, for your film as well. Unfortunately, I couldn't land a role in it, but it's pretty much fine.
In the next one, maybe, inshallah.
I don't know whether I should speak it on television or not, but I think that there was a negative role for a bald guy, and that we discussed over that. But it's perfectly all right. Whoever you chose, we want to wish you best of luck, and we want you to be as successful as you want in your head as well, and
Absolutely.
our prayers are with you. You're a fantabulous, fabulous human being, and please keep on giving us this positive energy.
Yes, and your fans are actually waiting for your next work as well, so good luck with that. And I really love the fact where he ended his answers as well. He's learning to remain silent.
Yeah.
That is the key, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, even if you speak anything before that, you have to think it twice. And if it doesn't make any sense, just halt. I mean, you don't have to keep talking all the time. Silence is the best key to every single thing. I really hope you learned something from our show, especially in terms of what your basic fundamental rights are in this country.
Yep.
So if you still have any questions, write to us on a Facebook page with the name of
World This Morning on your television screens down below. Yes, that's exactly it is.
on Twitter,
On Twitter, it's World This Morning without a G.
on YouTube.
On YouTube, it's PT World, and then you type in World This Morning, which is the most viewed show on this channel.
Absolutely. And then the repeat of this show you can catch at
5 past 11 p.m. tonight. Till the next time, 1, 2, 3. Good
Good morning.
morning.
Stay safe.
Blessed.